You can take it to the back, all right? Take it to the back. All right, Shalom, Akwathian. I mean, Akim and Akwathian. You know what I'm saying? This is ISUPK, Northern California. I'm Precinct Captain of 10,000 Cuomo All, under Commander General Yohana. And this is the closing of Purim. You know what I'm saying? This is us, once again, doing what we've always done, and that's keep our days that we hold close and near to us. We have our high holy days. This isn't considered a high holy day, but this is a day that we remember what such an excellent thing a daughter of Israel, a Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indian woman should be proud and should hold this particular story with reverence in regards to an amazing act that was accomplished, you know what I mean, with our people. And so does anybody, I know some brothers and sisters couldn't make it for the opening. Does anybody not know what Purim is? So we can just do a quick overview. And then we'll go into the closing of it. Does anybody have any questions, or does anybody not know what Purim is? You don't know what Purim is? All right, no sweat. So Purim is a story about how a mighty brother from the tribe of Benjamin by the name of Mordecai, he raised up a daughter by the name of Esther or Hadassah. And what she did in her time of being raised up is she made a decision to put her people above her own needs. And it's such an amazing act. We're going to get into the story here in just a second. But we live in a place like America where men and women, when they get a little bit of status and power, they forget where they come from. You understand? They forget where they come from. They forget the struggles that they used to have because they're now not those people anymore. Where we need to remember, from the low of us to the top of us, we are all family. And that's what makes this story so beautiful. And on top of that, for sisters, like, we always hear this concept that women aren't important, that women, you know, have no say in the Bible. It's all about men. That's a lie. It's an absolute lie. This is a story about a woman that was raised up the right way, actually understood and put her people first. And, you know, we have to every single year, remember this. So let's get into the middle of it, and then we're going to start going into the main portion of it. I need to get Esther chapter. Let me see where we're going to start. Give me 1 second. Let's start at Esther, the third chapter. Let's start at 3 and 1. We're just going to try to jump into the review. Read it when you got it.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 3 and verse 1. After these things, did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite.
So Haman.
Oh, Salaki, Haman.
Go ahead.
The son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him.
So stop right there. So we got, just to give a little background of the story, the king, say his name again for me.
Ahasuerus.
So this is the king, man. He had a woman that he wanted to put on the throne as a queen. She denied him. And then so what he did is sent his princes and his high men in his chambers to go find a very, very beautiful woman. So he went to all these different provinces, and they raised up some women, and one above all of them was Esther. And she was an Israelite woman. You know what I mean? That's why these brothers are married to you women in here now. I think y'all need to understand that. You know what I mean? They look at y'all and go, man, she took my breath away. And that's what happened with the king. Esther was so bad, she took his breath away. And he listened. And he, like any heathen, you know what I'm saying? He was like, man, whatever you want, you can have it. And so she used that in our favor. And so in regards to Haman, he was one of the men that was raised up in the castle amongst the king. You know what I mean? He really was an enemy of the king. You know what I mean? And you're going to come to find that out shortly as we go. And so when it's talking about he was the son of the Agagite, you know what I mean? Which would be the so-called Edomite, the so-called Caucasian man of today. Keep reading.
Okay. Verse 2. And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman.
And they reverenced Haman. Why? Because Haman had a status. Haman was someone to be, feared. So they gave him reverence. You know what I mean? Not because he was anything special, because he rode with this heathen king. You know what I mean? And he thought he was important. Go ahead.
Okay. For the king had so commanded concerning him, but Mordecai bowed not.
But Mordecai bowed what?
Not.
Mordecai, being a Benjamite, a brother from the tribe of Benjamin, man, he was like, listen, I'm already in slavery, man. I'm going to do what y'all say, but the last thing I'm going to do is be a bend down and take a knee to you, bow to you. And he stood on business. And that's what it is it's going to take for brothers and sisters to understand in this place. To keep these laws, statutes, and commandments, you're going to have to learn to stand on business. Your principles, your laws have to be held close and near and dear to you, like a Christian who loves Christmas, like a Christian who loves Valentine's Day. You know what I mean? They know their holidays and high holy days better than we do as a people. That's blasphemous. You should know your high holy days in the months they come in every season, because it's your history, it's your life, it's your family. Like how the other nations know the Constitution. This is your Constitution. And so Mordecai recognized and knew that he knew the laws. He understood who his people were, even in slavery. And he was unwilling to bow, you understand, to this wicked man. Keep reading.
Okay.
Drop down to the verse 4.
Okay, verse 4. Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand.
Go ahead.
For he had told them that he was a Jew.
That's like when you on your office and they ask you, oh, you don't celebrate Christmas? Nah, I'm an Israelite. Right. You don't celebrate, you don't eat pork, or you don't want to get down on this ceviche that got all this shrimp and crab in it? Nah, I'm an Israelite. I eat a certain way. I talk a certain way. I live a certain way. That's what Mordecai was standing on. And in these princes that did, the men that rolled with Haman, they was telling on him like, he's not listening to you. He's not following you. What should we do with him? Drop down to verse 6. I'm going to speed this up until we get into around chapter 5 and 6. Then we're going to go into it and get a little bit more deeper. Keep going.
Verse 6. And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone.
And he say that again?
And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone.
Go ahead.
For they had showed him the people of Mordecai. Mm-hmm. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai.
Stop right there. So what ended up happening, because Mordecai stood on business, right? He stood on the laws of God. What did Haman want to do? Haman said, because he didn't want to listen to me, let's get rid of all the Jews, man. For one man deciding to stand on the laws, man. Such a heavy situation. You want to say something?
No, sir.
Keep going.
Verse 7. In the first month, that is the month Nisan, in the 12th year of King Ahasuerus, they cast her, that is the lot, before Haman from day to day, and from month to month, to the 12th month, that is the month Adar.
And then listen, this is a very important thing, right? Not only did he want to destroy all of our people, they casted lots. What does it mean, officers? What does it mean to cast lots? Go ahead, Correal.
In layman terms, shoot dice or gamble.
They gambled on the life of your people, meaning they were like, yo, I bet we can get this many, man. We can do this, we can do that, come up on them this way. They put your life in a bet. You understand? And that's going to be very important to understand. Shalakia, let's go ahead. That's the babies that did that?
Yeah.
All right, no sweat. Let's make sure that they're in here. It's to yeah, it's good right there. Camera's good right there. So make sure all the kids know just to stay back there.
Okay.
All right, no sweat. All right, still like about the technical difficulty, you know. This is a family thing. We got our children running around here. Everything situated? Yeah, that camera's too wide. All right, let's get back to it. So back to verse 7. Oh, actually, where were we at? Verse 8?
Come.
Go ahead, read.
Come. The book of Esther, chapter 3 and verse 8. And Haman said unto Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people.
Meaning what? Our laws are different. You deciding to live according to the Most High makes you diverse. When people say you don't eat shrimp, crab, and lobster, they look at you like an alien. When they say you don't want to deal with any woman outside of your race, you're looked at as an alien. Northern California, everybody could contest to this. When somebody say you don't smoke weed, you looked at like an alien. You know what I mean? Because you're not like everybody else. And they understood this. And these heathens understood it, man. And they looked at us and just in disgust, but they didn't realize, man, that judgment was on the way for looking at us and dealing with us as such. Drop down to verse 10.
The book of Esther, chapter 3 and verse 10. And the king took his ring from his hand and gave it unto Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the Jews' enemy.
And Haman, like I said, was Jews' enemy. Speeding this up, what ended up happening is this. Is Haman, he was casting lots. He was getting ready to orchestrate a genocide of our people. So he went to the king and said, listen, can we do such a thing? He did it in a manner that was deceitful. You know what I mean? Trying to just like, kid, we got to do some work. You know what I mean? We need to get rid of these people. So he gave him the ring. That ring is significant with, you know, power. When you know what I mean? When you have men underneath you, and like for instance, if I gave a brother a ring, or David, our King David at that time, when on biblical terms, when he would give one of his lead men a ring to go do work, it was like a symbol of, oh, I roll with King David. You understand? So he gave, Haman was given by this heathen king a ring that he was going to go do hella mischievous things with. Let's drop down or keep reading from there. Salaki. Verse 11.
Verse 11. And the king said unto Haman, this silver is given to thee, the people also, to do with them as it seemeth good to thee.
Man, go ahead.
Verse 12. Then when the king's scribes called on the 13th day of the first month, and there was written according to all that Haman had commanded unto the king's lieutenants, and to the governors that were over every province, and to the rulers over every people of every province, according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, in the name of King Ahasuerus, which was it written and sealed with the king's ring. So what happened was they created this letter, right? This letter was a decree to genocide all of us as a people. And like it said earlier, we were scattered abroad and all as a diverse people with diverse laws all over. Because what does Psalms 83 tell you? We have enemies. That's right. Psalms 83 tells you that the other nations came against us. They made a conglomerate. A tumult is what it says. Right. You know what I mean? To make sure that the name of Israel is no more than they do today to blacks and browns. You know what I mean? People, Native Indian people. That's our life today. Every day we are being battered, bruised, and put into a lower state. It's like that. Who was that?
That's the 2 weeks out.
Fell again? Okay, no sweat. I just want to make sure the kids was right there. Keep reading.
Okay. Verse 13. And the letters were sent by post into all the king's provinces to destroy, to kill, and to cause to perish all Jews, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, even upon the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month Adar, and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
Listen, man, this man Haman was evil, man. Evil like the president of the United States, man.
That's right.
Evil like the founding fathers of this land, man. It was like he was like, man, when you go get to these people, man, do everything you possibly can. Slaughter the children, slaughter the old, slaughter the women. Everybody must get it. Sounds like Egypt all over again.
Right.
When we just wanted to do what? We wanted to just go into the wilderness for 3 days.
Right.
Just to praise our God. And then what ended up happening? We got tormented with more work. We got tormented with more strife, with more struggle. And then what happened? The Lord sent judgment.
Right.
You understand? Drop down to 5 verse. What is it? We were in 3. Drop down to 4 and 1.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 4 and verse 1. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes and went out into the midst of the city and cried with a loud and bitter cry.
So what ended up happening, right? Like I said, I'm going to jump through this real quick because this was in the opening. What ended up happening is Mordecai found out about what happened because of his actions. And it hurt him dearly. So he put on sackcloth, which is like it's not the most impressionable pair of wear of clothing. Like we're royal people that when we go for Passovers, as brothers know, y'all see brothers, we put it on. You know what I'm saying? We put that stuff on, but he wasn't in that spirit. He was in a lower state. He was sad. He was saddened because, man, like I didn't mean to try to hurt my people. I was just standing for the Most High. You know what I mean? And you have to be willing to risk everything for the Most High, is what this is saying. You understand? And Mordecai was no coward, but he was upset and hurt. Keep going.
Okay. Verse 2. And came even before the king's gate, for none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 3. And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews, fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes.
Meaning what? Many of them in all those different provinces, man, they were going through it, man, to hear and find out what was the judgment that was coming their way. You understand? Drop down to verse 5.
Okay, verse 5. Then called Esther for Hatak, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was.
So what happened was Esther wanted to know why her uncle was at the front of the gate, you know what I mean, being the way he was. So she sent one of her chamberlains, yo, hey, go check on my uncle, man. Find out what's going on. You know what I mean? Drop down to verse 7.
Okay. Verse 7. And Mordecai told him of all that had happened unto him, and of the sum of money that Haman had promised to pay the king's treasurers for the Jews to destroy them.
Go ahead.
Verse 8. Also, he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go in unto the king to make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people.
So look, this is what Mordecai, what happened, man. You know what I'm saying? Basically, she found out that this decree was made. You know what I'm saying? And so overall, she went and had a plan. And I want sisters to really think about this, right? What she did was because of her being raised up by Mordecai, being taken in when she had no father, no mother. She realized how important her people was, why it was important to listen to what was going on with Mordecai, and this decree that was out, and she devised a plan. And this was all the Lord being in the midst of this. I hope you understand.
Right.
Drop down to verse 13.
Come. Verse 13. Then Mordecai commanded to Esther, Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews.
So Mordecai, in giving her details on how to look at this situation when going to the king, because everyone knew, if you read up a little bit prior to this, if you walk into the king's chamber without being sanctioned, you get put to death. And so, but she decided to follow this direction. And Mordecai said, listen, think not of yourself. I understand that you might be put to death, but listen, think not of yourself. Put yourself aside. And that's what it takes to be in here, man. To not think about self, not to be selfish, but to be selfless. And that's what happened here. You know what I mean? Keep going.
Okay, sir. Verse 14. For if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. Mm-hmm. But thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed.
Man, listen. He said, think not of thyself, because if you do not understand the seriousness of what's getting ready to happen, your father's house, the reason you are who you are today, will be destroyed. You know what I mean? Drop down to... No, keep going.
Come, sir. Middle of verse 14. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?
Mm-hmm.
Verse 15. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Verse 16. Go, gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. Mm-hmm. I also and my maidens will fast likewise. And so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish.
Listen, let me tell you something. This sister said, you know what? All right, I'm going to follow your order. But y'all go and fast. Y'all go and pray to the Most High. And listen, and I'm going to go to the king, which is against the law. And if I die, I die. Do you understand the power it takes for a woman to put her life on the line for her people?
Right.
Like, and you sisters are okay with allowing us to be defiled out here?
Right.
When you got mothers like this that you have to look at as an example, you have sisters with integrity like this. You know what I mean? This woman said, if I die, I die. It is what it is. But I'm going to do as you commanded of me, Father, meaning Mordecai. Because, yes, that was her uncle, but he raised her from such an age that was her father. Go to, let's jump into chapter 5. Start at verse, at the end of that. Verse 17 says she did as what was commanded. Yeah, start at verse 1, 5 and 1.
Okay. This is the book of Esther, chapter 5 and verse 1. Now it came to pass on the 3rd day that Esther put on her royal apparel.
So listen. So on that day when Esther had to go meet with the king, man, she put that stuff on, man.
Right.
You know that dress where you see a woman put on, you go, dang, man. Right. Who is that? She wanted to make sure the king recognized her when she walked in.
Right.
That's why I mentioned this. Keep going.
Okay. And stood in the inner court of the king's house, over against the king's house, and the king sat upon his royal throne in the royal house, over against the gate of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so, when the king saw Esther, the queen, standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight.
Listen, man, he was out there chilling, man, doing his thing. She walked in the room. He was like, wait a minute, that's shorty right there? Yeah, man, yeah, bring her over here. You know what I mean? That's what it means by obtain favor in his sight. Keep reading.
Okay. And the king held out to Esther the golden scepter that was in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
So Esther drew near and touched the top of the scepter. Verse 3. Then said the king unto her, what wilt thou, Salakia, what wilt thou, Queen Esther, and what is thy request? It shall be given thee to the half of the kingdom.
So listen, I want you to see what she did, right? Esther, she didn't even do nothing with him yet from my understanding, but she had put it on him so crazy. Yeah, it's like walking up on the king and taking this crown off his head. You know what I'm saying? And just putting it on her own head. You know what I'm saying? She had him so in a daze. You know what I mean? He couldn't even think straight. She had him so just wrapped up that he turned and said, listen, whatever you want, baby. You tell me, you can have it. You know, go ahead,
To the point, sir, he offered her half of the kingdom.
Listen, half of the kingdom. And you women talking about, man, listen, y'all want half our money, you know what I mean, from a divorce. You could get half of everything. You know what I'm saying? In the right spirit. You know what I'm saying? But then this is the spirit. She did it in the right spirit.
Right.
But keep going.
Come on, sir. Verse 4. And Esther answered, if it seem good unto thee, king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him.
Mm-hmm.
Then the king said, cause Haman to make haste, that he may do as Esther hath said. So the king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 6. And the king said unto Esther at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition? And it shall be granted thee. Mm-hmm. And what is thy request? Even to the half of the kingdom, it shall be performed.
Listen, he was like, listen, I'll give you everything, even up to half of the kingdom, man. Whatever you want. Whatever you want to do with Haman right now, let's do it. Keep reading.
Verse 7. Then answered Esther and said, my petition and my request is, if I have found favor in the sight of the king, and if it please the king to grant my petition and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I shall prepare for them, and I will do tomorrow as the king hath said. Mm-hmm. Then went Haman forth that day joyful and with a glad heart. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the king's gate, and he stood not up, nor moved for him, he was full of indignation against Mordecai.
Listen, man, so Haman, in his just disgustingness, he's sitting back thinking that Esther on his team, thinking that, you know what I mean, she brought him in to put him in position, you know what I mean? And he saw Mordecai, and then eventually just got upset again. You know what I mean? Look at this Jew. This one that don't want to follow me. And I'm the one that got favor with the king. I'm the one that the king rocked with. Even Esther rocked with me. So he think. Keep going.
Okay. Verse 10. Nevertheless, Haman refrained himself. And when he came home, he sent and called for his friends and Zeresh, his wife.
Drop down to verse 12.
Okay. Verse 12. Haman said, moreover, yea, Esther the queen did let no man come in with the king unto the banquet that she prepared by her, that she prepared but myself. And tomorrow am I invited unto her and also the king. Mm-hmm. Verse 13. Yet all this availeth me nothing, so long as I see Mordecai, the Jew, sitting at the king's gate. Listen,
he said, even though, man, this wonderful thing happened to me, man. You know what I mean? I got to go into the king's gate. They setting up a party for me. I still seen Mordecai, man, that pissed me off, man. Because with all this power I got, this Jew still wouldn't bow to me, man. Go ahead.
Okay, verse 14. Then said Zeresh, his wife, and all his friends unto him, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak thou unto the king that Mordecai may be hanged thereon.
Stop right there. And this is important, right? So Haman is sitting back thinking he's being put in position. And he like, you know what? Listen, even while I'm being put in position, they're getting ready to throw this party for me, man. Hey, man, y'all, go set up this device, man. Get this prepared, man. Make this big, gigantic, stage so that I can put Mordecai on display in front of his people and hang him. You know what I mean? Keep going.
Okay. Then go thou and merrily with the king unto the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman, and he caused the gallows to be made.
Go ahead, start at top of 6, chapter 6.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 6 and verse 1. On that night could not the king sleep, and he commanded to bring the book of records of the chronicles, and they were read before the king.
Drop down to 3.
Come on, verse 3. And the king said, what honor and dignity have been done to Mordecai for this? Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, there is nothing done for him.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 4. And the king said, who is in the court? Now Haman was come into the outward court of the king's house to speak unto the king to hang Mordecai on the gallows that he prepared for him.
Drop down to 6.
Oh God, verse 6. So Haman came in, and the king said unto him, what shall be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor? Now Haman.
So hold on. I don't want to run over that. So Haman, you know what I mean? Haman was preparing to kill Mordecai, man. But he didn't realize that this honor was actually being provided to Mordecai.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so he asked him, man, what do you want to do with this man? Go ahead.
Come on, sir. Now Haman thought in his heart, to whom would the king delight to do honor more than myself?
Mm-hmm.
And Haman answered the king, for the man whom the king delighteth to honor, let the royal apparel be brought, which the king useth to wear, and to the horse that the king rideth upon, and the crown royal, which is set upon his head.
Man, listen, Haman was pissed to see this, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? He realized he was getting set up by this woman, man. You know what I mean? Because he wanted to do so bad to this brother, man, but didn't realize that this brother, you know what I mean, was in favor of the woman that the heathen king loved more than he loved himself. You know what I mean? Because that was her father, her people. Keep going.
Come on, verse 10. Then the king said to Haman, make haste and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordecai the Jew that sitteth at the king's gate. Let nothing fail of all that thou hast spoken.
Drop down to 13.
Verse 13. And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but shall surely fall before him.
So what ended up happening? Haman started seeing his plan backfire.
Right.
And even Haman's main men, they started to recognize, like, listen, man, this is finna turn ugly. Even his wife said, listen, you talking about Mordecai the Jew, the one that you set up and sent these letters out? You sent these letters out to get him destroyed, his direct family and his brethren. And now he's getting honored by the king. And you were the one, like, this is so cold. Esther had came and asked Haman earlier in the chapter, what would you do for a person that you wanted to, give some reverence to? Right. And Haman was like, I do this and I do that. And I would give him all this gold, all this land. And because Haman thought that was something that was going to be given to him. Right. But it turned out it was given to Mordecai, the man he hated. And what's the spirit behind this, man? The spirit that you want to understand behind this is we live in a world where we think, you know what I mean, and not in here, but as people in the world, they think, man, we're never going to get that opportunity to get what we deserve.
Right.
When what you getting ready to deserve is on the horizon.
That's right.
Like, I was talking to my read about this earlier today, right? We was driving, we was hitting the Golden Gate Bridge and taking the back end, and I'm just looking through Marin County. I'm looking at all these hills, and I'm looking at all this nice just scenery, and I'm looking at these houses. I'm like, man, what does it take for someone to live over here? The money to live so deliciously. And I sat back and I was like, you know what? I absolutely don't want this.
Right.
Because I realize if this is something that they find pleasure in, then I just know my king, a black man, got something in store for me. And it humbled me. You understand? And I say that to say, like, we have to realize what special things we're going to have is on the horizon if we stay locked in, if we don't compromise. Just because you don't have it right now don't mean you ain't going to get it later. That's what Mordecai, he was in slavery. Don't forget this. He was a slave in this time, in this context. You know what I mean? But he was given treasures. He was given reverence. Keep reading.
Okay. Verse 14. And while they were yet talking with him, came the king's chamberlains and hasted to bring Haman unto the banquet that Esther had prepared.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, top of 7.
Okay. This is the book of Esther, chapter 7 and verse 1. So the king and Haman came to the banquet with Esther the queen.
Mm-hmm.
And the king said again unto Esther on the second day at the banquet of wine, what is thy petition, Queen Esther? And it shall be granted thee. So what is thy request?
So listen, she set him up. You know what I mean? She made him think that he was going to get all this power, all this authority, asked him the things in the proper context. She tactically, as far as Esther, manipulated this king in our favor with her beauty, with her kindness, with her essence, which a lot of sisters need to take into accountability. If you can learn to be sweet, if you can learn to be understanding, it goes a long way.
Right.
It is your strength. Man don't want to come home to something hard. He want to come home to something soft, something sweet, the opposite of him. You know what I mean? Keep reading.
Okay. And it shall be performed even to the half of the kingdom.
Listen, he keeps saying the half of the kingdom, man. I don't know what she done did to this man. But man, the half of the kingdom, and if you go into the first chapter, he owned provinces and lands.
Right.
I mean, he owns so much. It's like, think of America. Think of how America goes everywhere, and then they put a base, and they never go away. Americans can fly to Cuba and have somewhere safe to be. They can fly anywhere in the Middle East and have somewhere safe to be. You know why? Because they've taken over provinces. They've taken over land. That's what this king did. Keep reading.
Okay. Verse 3. Then Esther the queen answered and said, if I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given at my petition and my people at my request.
So she like, listen, if it please you, my king, this is what I ask of you. Let my life be given and my people's. And listen, as for brothers' sake, this is the importance of men being in their daughters' lives.
That's right.
As a man that has a daughter, as brothers that have daughters, it's very important to bow their necks, teach them conduct, teach them a proper way to how to live. Because when these women, these girls that become women grow, they'll never depart from the law. They'll never depart from how you've raised them. This is in context a child that became a woman and that did not depart from the law, as the scripture says. Keep going.
Okay. Verse 4. For we are sold, I and my people,
No, go ahead, Slack.
to be destroyed, to be slain, and to perish. But if we had been sold for bondage.
Hold on, I don't know about what's like it. So this is what she said before you go into that. So she was like, well, king, you know, all I ask is for my life and my people's life, because we're on the brink of being destroyed. You know what I mean? Keep reading.
Okay. But if we have been sold for bondmen and bondwomen, I had held my tongue, although the enemy could not countervail the king's damage.
Man, she was like, listen, if we were to just be sold as slaves, I wouldn't even said nothing to you. But because with a death sentence has been rendered against us, all I ask is for our life.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Verse 5. Then said King Ahasuerus, then the king Ahasuerus answered and said unto Esther the queen, who is he, and where is he that durst presume in his heart to do so?
Stop right there. And the king said to a woman that he loved dearly, like, wait a minute, what's going on? What happened? Man, who did such a thing? Who said such a decree? Who is he? Where is he? And bring him to me. Go ahead.
Okay. And Esther said, the adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman.
Listen, and this whole time Haman thought everything was all good. You know what I mean? And in the banquet where they was having a good time. They was sitting back, partying, drinking. You know what I'm saying? Talks about them off the wine. And she like, let it be known. This wicked man Haman did it. Go ahead.
Okay. Then Haman was afraid before the king and the queen. Verse 7.
And look, you can only imagine how also the tables have turned when you got a wicked bastard like Haman, you know, which is of the family of them small hats. You know what I mean? And he was living this life of glory, living this life of putting people to death, living this life of being able to point his finger with the king's power behind it. You understand? And then to be sitting in a space and then to be turned around and told, oh yeah, you come here. You did what? It's like, go ahead, huh?
Like he been trying to get rid of her for like 3-4 days. He offered her the kingdom twice. He's like, why you ain't trying to be my rib?
Come on.
She like, hey, he the reason. She like this. Oh yeah, he's out there.
You know what I'm saying? Like you been holding up the process, and then not to mention, like, he already been dished already the first time. You know what I'm saying? From the first woman. You know what I mean? And then now I finally found one that I want. She kind of dealing with me, but every time I try to get at her, it's always something else that keep coming up. And then now I bring Haman, who I thought was on my team. And I come to find out he was the one that was trying to backstab me in the first place. Come on, man. You can only imagine the face he had, man. You can imagine how you ever seen Esau turn pale, even though he's already pale? Right. You can see, you know what I'm saying? You could just see that he was, oh, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Can you read it? Salaki.
Okay, sir. Verse 7. And the king, arising from the banquet of wine in his wrath, went into the palace garden, and Haman stood up to make request for his life to Esther the queen.
Listen. He was in there big chilling, man. Palace of wine. He had to put the drink down. Like, you know what I'm saying? Listen, he was in a palace of wine. You don't even think. I think as a Judite, so I know it's a whole bunch of liquor where we at. You know what I'm saying? And just Israel in general. And I'm chilling, and you telling me, wait, I gotta stop what I'm doing because of this wicked bastard? You know what I'm saying? Can you read it?
Okay. For he saw that there was evil determined against him by the king. Verse 8. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine. And Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the queen also?
So stop. Listen. So this is what get cold, right? This is where it get cold. So he been trying to get with Esther for the last few days. And then he go to find Haman. And he in there in the same room with his woman. That's supposed to be his woman. He like, bruh, you finna go try to get my woman too? You know what I'm saying? You sending decrees out, trying to kill these people, and now you want my woman, brother. Come on, man. That's like you seeing a wicked bastard trying to talk to your wife. Huh? Like, you gonna be looking at him sideways like, hey, you trying to disrespect me, bro? Like, you thought I was soft or something? Come on, man. Go ahead, please.
Okay, sir. Salaki.
Yo, read it from the top of 8. Salaki.
Okay, sir. The book of Esther, chapter 7 and verse 8. Then the king returned out of the palace garden into the place of the banquet of wine, and Haman was fallen upon the bed whereon Esther was. Then said the king, will he force the queen also before me in the house? And the word went out of the king's mouth. So like as the word went out of the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face.
Stop right there. You ever seen the movies where they kidnap somebody and put the bag over them and throw them in the trunk?
Right.
It was over, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, pack him up. You know what I'm saying? Pack him up. You know what I'm saying? It's over with. I found you over here. You've been the reason I ain't been getting this beautiful woman. She been what was she? What was for 6 months? She was
Purification.
She was in pure. She was being purified for me for 6 months.
Right.
Another 6 months. You know what I mean? I think a whole year she was purified.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? She looking good. She's smelling good. I know she tastes good. Salakia. You know what I'm saying? And you've been slowing this all down. And then I find you in the room with my woman. And I had to put the drink down. He off the drink, y'all. So you already know listen, he got the liquid courage in him. Listen, pack him up. Keep going.
Okay. Verse 9. And Harbonah, one of the chamberlains, said before the king, behold, also the gallows 50 cubits high, which Haman had made for Mordecai.
Stop right there. And listen, this is what's jacked up. His homie ain't nothing. Homie said, well, listen, king. Listen. look, his homie ain't nothing. His homie like, listen, we gonna pack him up. Listen, king, look, he made this big, large gallows here that he made for Mordecai. You know what I'm saying? What you want to do? Because he didn't want no smoke. You know what I'm saying? Listen, you got to know your brothers, man. Listen. Because, oh, boy, I don't think we talk about him enough.
Right.
And hey, I don't want nobody around me like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want nobody around me like that. You know what I mean? Keep going. So like it.
God, who has spoken good for the king, standing in the house of Haman. Then the king said, hang him thereon.
Man, listen. And the very judgment, let's get serious though. The very judgment that he tried to render on a brother that stood for the laws of the Most High God, man, raised up a daughter that ran with him to the end. He saw the same judgment that was worthy upon his head, man. The same, like, you got to think about the irony. He bought the gun that ended up killing him. You know what I mean? He built the gallows that he wanted to hang and ended up being the only one hung on it. Well, I don't want to say the only one, but he was the first one hung on it.
First one, absolutely.
Go ahead, please.
If I could too, sorry. When I was reading the book of Esther last night, the third chapter, and then I think is this saying that he was responsible? Haman was responsible for trying to get Xerxes killed. Like, if I could read.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
This is Esther chapter 3, verse 6. And it said, howbeit Haman, the son of Mattathias the Haggite, who was in great honor with the king, sought to molest Mordecai and his people because of the two eunuchs of the king.
And so your question was
it saying that he's responsible for trying to get a hit put out on the king the first time, and then Mordecai stopped it by letting the king know?
Yeah, come.
That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this Haman was such a wicked bastard. What Haman was trying to do was Haman was trying to line the king up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's what was going on with this situation. Like, Haman, that's why the UPK is such a beautiful thing, and brothers get vetted in here, man. Sisters get vetted in here. Like, the reason why situations happen in these Christian organizations or these fake Hebrew organizations, you know what I'm saying, is because they don't take the time to really find out about a brother. They don't take the time out to really see a brother's spirit, put them to the test. You know what I mean? A lot of brothers don't know. You got to carry them crates. You got to carry that camp equipment. You got to go clean this up and do that stuff. Just not because we need you to do it. I want to see if you are willing to sacrifice for me like I'll sacrifice for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. And certain brothers, I ain't picking that up. I ain't doing this. I already know sweat, brother. I'll do it. But I just realized now you don't belong with me. You know what I'm saying? But that's what happens in those places, you know what I mean, that aren't established where the Lord is at. You know what I mean? That's why we don't have those problems. You know what I mean? Keep going. Where was that? You had any more questions about it? No sweat.
Okay, verse 10. It's like it. The book of Esther, chapter 7 and verse 10. So they hanged Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. Then was the king's wrath pacified.
Listen, the king wrath, he was like, oh, finally. He's up out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? I got to worry about nobody else trying to get my woman. You know what I mean? Maybe I can get some. Slack it. That's what he was thinking. You know what I'm saying? Keep going. Verse 8 or chapter 8.
Okay. The book of Esther, chapter 8 and verse 1. On that day, the king Ahasuerus gave the house of Haman, the Jews' enemy, unto Esther the queen. And Mordecai came before the king, for Esther had told what he was unto her.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 2. And the king took off his ring, which he had taken from Haman, and gave it unto Mordecai, And Esther set Mordecai over the house of Haman.
Stop right there. So why did Haman get, or why did Mordecai receive what he received? Any officers want to answer the question? Why did Mordecai receive this honor? Go ahead. Huh?
Because he kept his integrity, even though he was in a low state, to serve the Lord and not a heathen.
So that's right, but there's another answer that I'm looking for. Go ahead, Tazabah.
Because he raised his daughter righteously, and she was like a treasure for the king.
That's right too, but there's something else. Go ahead, come out and then
Because he saved the king's life.
That's why, man. Listen, come on now. If you met a brother and he saved your life, how would you feel about that brother?
Right.
You gonna look out for him. You gonna be like, listen, man. Hey, you need something? You know what I'm saying? I got you. You know what I mean? He saved the king's life, man, and that's why he not only all of those were right, but that's the spiritual aspect of it. But then this is a heathen we dealing with.
Right.
He was happy to live and get an opportunity at Esther, who he'd been trying to figure out this whole entire time. Felt like he'd getting played, but eventually he realized it is what it is. She had a bigger plan at hand. Keep going.
Okay. Verse 3.
It's like you want somebody else to read because I know you've been reading the whole time. You too out.
I'm too loud, bro.
Okay, no sweat.
Okay. Verse 3. And Esther spake yet again before the king and fell down at his feet and besought him with tears to put away the mischief of Haman the Agagite and his device that he devised against the Jews.
And listen, this is another thing, right, that I want to bring out, right? Not only was he put in position for what he did, but the Lord gave him the people, you know what I mean, that would have been over him and destroyed his people if Haman was allowed to live. And now, you know what I'm saying, like that's what's going to happen. If you look at that, we got all these other nations that are over us, right? All these nations, and they treat us like nothing, man. They belittle us, they talk about us, there's so many things. Like I could just keep going on and on. And to think that we one day will get the opportunity to be over them. That's what this is. Haman, you know what I mean? Mordecai got that opportunity, not because of anything other than standing on the Lord's business. You know what I mean? Not wavering, not bending, being able to say, listen, even though I'm a slave right now in this captivity, dealing with all this, I'm still holding to my integrity. And that's the importance. Integrity is going to get you so far in regards to life and with the Lord. You understand? Keep going.
Okay. Verse 4. Then the king held out the golden scepter toward Esther, so Esther arose and stood before the king.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 5. And said, if it please the king, and if I have found favor in his sight, and the thing seem right before the king, and I be pleasing in his eyes, let it be written to reverse the letters devised by Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, which he wrote to destroy the Jews, which are in all the king's provinces.
So listen, and she was so cold. Listen, let's make sure also that these letters were, reversed. Let's write some new letters and push those now. You know what I mean? Stamp with your approval so that we don't die in these places. Because a lot of us forget we got enemies.
Right.
And the moment that a decree was put out that they could put us to sleep, come on, man. You know that they wanted to do it. And they was waiting to get their hands on us. And she remembered to make sure that was put into effect. It's like imagining now today, if all the other nations, like what's that movie, The Purge?
Right.
It's like America saying, hey, for 24 hours, all black and brown people on site, y'all can go get them. Come on, man. But what she remembered that horrible thing, that horrible, decree was put on us, and to make sure it was changed. You understand? Keep going.
Okay. Verse 6. For how can I endure to see the evil that shall come unto my people? Or how can I endure to see the destruction of my kindred?
Listen, how could I live? This is a beautiful daughter, man. This is a beautiful daughter. She said, how could I live? How could I look at myself in the mirror if I don't remember my people and allow these letters to allow some of my people die if we don't change this? Keep going.
Okay. Verse 7. Then the king Ahasuerus said unto Esther the queen and to Mordecai the Jew, behold, I have given Esther the house of Haman, and him they have hanged upon the gallows because he laid his hand upon the Jews.
Man, jump down to verse 15. Or no, jump down to verse 11.
Okay, verse 11. Wherein the king,
slack it. Verse 10, slack it.
okay, verse 10. And he wrote in King Ahasuerus' name and sealed it with the king's ring and sent letters by post on horseback and riders on mules, camels, and young dromedaries.
What is that? Dromedaries. Yeah.
Dromedaries. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 11. Wherein the king granted the Jews which were in every city to gather themselves together and to stand for their life, to destroy, to slay, and to cause to perish all the power of the people and the province that will assault them, both little ones and women, and to take the spoil of them for a prey.
Man, god damn, like Haman was a bastard, man, what he was trying to do to us. You want to say something now?
Come with kind, just thinking about how in the last days the tribe of Amalek, you know what I'm saying, the so-called small hats that live in the land that believe that they're the chosen people of God.
Mm-hmm.
Like Haman felt like he was the chosen person
Absolutely.
in the kingdom to see Christ come back as a black man and to tell them that y'all are not the chosen and put them to death. They're gonna be looking like,
come on, brother. Listen, I hope brothers get out of hand. And what's so heavy about that, right, is I want y'all to get in your spiritual mindset and just get in your spirit with this one, right? We rehearse these every year, these stories, these high holy days, not only in remembrance of our family and what's been done, but this is spiritual on what's going to happen.
Right.
And so that when it does happen, you're not surprised.
Right.
Like, so that when, like you said, when all the other nations see that sky crack and they go, oh my goodness, it is black men, brown men with afros and braids.
Right.
What is going to happen? Every one of them are going to think about what they did to you on your work, at work, or in prison. You know what I'm saying? Every police officer that pulled you over, everyone that dealt with you bad just walking in the grocery store, every one of them are going to remember all the things that happened to you. And you are going to finally receive justice for it.
that's right.
Because Christ, I think a lot of people forget that he really said he's not coming for peace, but to bring a sword. And, you know, this world with technology gets you jammed up and you start to forget about things like, you know, the world saw fear for just a moment with coronavirus and, you know, people were scared of a cough. You know what I mean? And it's like now everybody's getting back into their regular, you know, spirit of things. But you brothers are the constant that has not changed. You know what I mean? And that's what makes it beautiful, because it doesn't matter what's going to happen. You brothers and sisters are going to stay consistent. And eventually they're going to keep forgetting. And then in the blink of an eye, that sky's going to crack and it's all hell's going to break loose. And these stories and these understanding, you're going to remember it. You're going to say, yeah, man, y'all didn't think this was going to happen? What you think we was doing on 2213 McDonald? Rehearsing. What do you think we was doing in Harlem, New York on 125th Street? You know what I'm saying? What do you think we was doing in Texas? Rehearsing our history, man. That's right. Getting our kids prepared. Getting our women prepared. Locking our brothers in. You know what I mean? Hey, mama, go over there. Keep going. Salaki.
Okay, sir. Verse 12. Upon one day in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, namely upon the 13th day.
Salaki, drop down to 15.
Okay.
And speed it up a little bit.
Verse 15. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of white and blue, and with a great crown, so like a great crown of gold, and with a garment of fine linen and purple, and the city of Shushan rejoiced and was glad.
And listen, man, when this decree happened, because remember, Mordecai rented his clothes, man, wore sackcloth, man, was in a lot of pain. And to see and trust in the Lord that he delivered his people, man, he was happy in a great spirit, man. He put that stuff on, like I told you. You know what I mean? He had the sackcloth on, but then he threw that stuff on, you know what I mean? And he walked in happy in the cities, man, among the people, and was happy because he knew that the spirit of the Most High was put on Esther. The spirit of the Most High was put on him to be the way he was. And being in your spirit was what persuaded the Lord to be with you. You know what I'm saying? And it's very important to realize that. Like it talks about that in the Apocrypha where the nations come up. I think it was the Moabite king knew that if we were sinning against our power, they'll be able to overtake us. But if we were in alignment with the Most High, you know what I'm saying? Man, nobody can come against us, man. That's why it's very important to let that light shine. Matter of fact, get that for me. Somebody hold that. Give me Proverbs 6:23. I think that's what it is. Somebody just pull Proverbs 6:23 real quick. Read it when you got it.
This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 6 and verse 23. For the commandment is a lamp.
The commandment is a what?
A lamp.
I mean, it is a light, man. The commandment is the light, man. You got to let your light shine. When you read these commandments, understand them, and live them, it's a lamp to your life. It's what allows you to shine. Keep going.
And the law is light.
And the law is what?
Is light.
Listen, man. That's what Mordecai stood on, man. That's what Esther stood on, because she was raised properly. You understand? He understand the commandments, the laws, statutes. You know what I mean? Living, you know what I mean, in these laws, statutes, and commandments is a light unto you. It's the lamp you carry. And the light and the Lord will be with you, man. Let's get back to the end of that. Back in Esther.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 8 and verse 16.
Mm-hmm.
The Jews had light and gladness and joy and honor.
The Jews had what?
Light and gladness and joy and honor.
Listen, man, they had that light in them, man. They turned right back on because they knew it's power in serving the Most High. It's power in trusting in Him. Esther showed trust and faith. If I die, I die. That's why when you brothers go to camp, it's heroic. And you sisters got to stand by these men. Because we go to camp knowing if we die, we die. I don't give a damn. I came to do this for the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Listen, make me a martyr. Shit, I don't give a damn. You know what I mean? I don't mind being a picture on the wall that brothers go, that's a real nigga. And that's a nigga that'll kill for you if he was here. And he raised sons that'll do the same for you. You know what I mean? I don't mind that. You know what I'm saying? Keep going.
Verse 17. And in every province and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day.
And a good day, man. They rejoice because, listen, it's a good day to know that the Lord was with you and that decree was taken off your head. You know what I'm saying? That life sentence was gone, man. Let's see where we at. We in 9?
Last verse.
Of 17?
Yeah, come.
Just finish 17. Let's jump into chapter 9.
Come. And many of the people of the land became Jews, for the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
For the fear of the what?
For the fear of the Jews fell upon them.
And listen, man, that's what happened, man. The other nations feared you, man. Keep going. Chapter 9, verse 1.
Come. This is the book of Esther, chapter 9 and verse 1.
So when we go into 9 and 10, because we're pretty much done with it, when you read into chapter 9 and 10 of Esther, this is kind of understanding what happened to Haman and his sons and why we celebrate Purim. That's what's going on. I'm going to go into real quick, and then we'll go ahead and end it. So 9 and 1.
Come. Now in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to put in execution in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned into the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them.
And that's why we celebrate this, man. It's a beautiful thing to think about. We had a day that our enemies wanted to destroy us, but we ended up being the ones that were the victor.
That's right.
You understand?
Right.
Like that's inspirational for your children's sake. That's inspirational for your spirit. And to know that the Lord will never forgive you. I mean, he'll never forget you. You understand? He may have hid his face from you for a time, but all he's asking for you to do is turn back to him. That's all he's asking. And that's what our mission is as brothers in the truth, to get brothers and sisters to turn back to the Most High power, to turn back to the Spirit of Christ, to turn back to the Lord so he can show us what real love is. You understand? Rock, go ahead. You want to say something? Yeah, no sweat. Go ahead.
Sir, if I may,
Please.
Just laying back on what you just said and backing up what you're saying, to turn back, to the law, statutes, and commandments, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in verse in Esther 8 and 17,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure that we get it clear that there's no, misconstruing that anybody can be a Jew. These were Jews that were not keeping the law, statutes, and commandments that turned back to the truth.
Absolutely. No, that's a fact. And then this is another thing that I also want to bring out, right? Because a lot of people, I was hearing somebody talk about this online. A lot of people think that Esther made the choice to be with this heathen. She didn't make the choice to be with this heathen. She was in captivity. So the king could choose to do what he wanted when he wanted to do. So, but she used her beauty that the Lord blessed her with and the spirit that her father raised her up in to benefit her people. You understand? So that's another key point to remember about it. But yeah, man, turning back to the Most High, your law, statutes, and commandments is what will allow us the safety and the safekeeping we've always wanted. Keep reading. Drop down to verse 10. Just get into the more of what ended up happening through this journey of us being in our joyful state now. This is some joy in verse 10.
This is the book of Esther, chapter 9, verse 10. The 10 sons of Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hand.
And listen, they had to die too, or unalive, excuse me. Keep going. Drop down to 14.
Verse 14. And the king commanded it to be And the king commanded it to be done. And the decree was given at Shushan. And they hanged Haman's 10 sons.
Listen, they all got to get it, man. Every last one of them. Don't feel no mercy for these people, man, and their children, and their women, and their men, and they're old, because they don't have no mercy for you.
Right.
I know people look at us wickedly when we say, like David said, happy shall thy be when we take thy little ones and dash them against the stones. Y'all look at us like we crazy. But when we read out the Bible, that's the spirit of what y'all tried to do to us. We are only returning favor for a favor. You know what I mean? And then certain brothers might not have the stomach for it. I get it. I handle that business for you. Don't worry about it. I got it. I got it in control. You know what I mean? Just watch me do it. Watch me work. You know what I mean? Y'all heard that term. Keep reading.
Verse 15. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day, also of the month, the month of Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan. But on the prey they laid not their hand.
Listen, man. More unaliving, man. More returning what Haman tried to do to us. Keep going.
Verse 16. But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 75,000, but laid not their hands on the prey.
Man, listen, just going into what had to be returned to them. Go ahead.
It's like, sir, can I use this? Like, can I use it as a precept that say that you gotta pay for the sins of your father. Like
Absolutely. Listen, you absolutely. It's just like Isaiah 14.
Right.
You can correlate this with Isaiah 14 because they don't believe that you have to pay for the sins of your father. Go ahead.
So I was going to ask, is it a significant thing that in these words it says that they did not touch the prey?
That they did not touch the prey. What is that? Yes, it is. It's gonna come to me. Give me a second. I'll remember what it is. Go ahead.
So is it when they first mentioned it, they called it their spoils.
Their spoils.
No.
In what verse?
It's like in verse. Verse 10.
Verse 10. Let me see it. Let me read it in the sons. Oh, on the spoil they took, meaning they didn't take anything. So like when you know what you go to war with someone, right? And you destroy them, you know what I'm saying? And you can get the spoils of war. You understand? If I'm not mistaken, I'm almost 90% sure that's what it's talking about because I know they were casting lot. Go ahead.
Could it be an order that they didn't touch the spoils, like when we went to war before? I remember we lost battles because brothers hid gold and stuff. From the
No, and that's what I think it's about. But I gotta double check. Go ahead.
How do we pay for the sins of our fathers?
So not us paying. Well, why do we pay for the sins of our fathers? So we pay for the sins of our fathers because we broke the commandments, and it was judgment rendered unto us. So, for instance, when you read Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, the first, is he listening now? Okay. The first 15 verses are about the blessings that we would get if we would actually do what the Lord told us to do. And the remaining were the curses if we did not follow the orders of what the Most High instilled. And so we pay for the sins of our fathers from breaking the law. But there's a way to return to not be punished, and that's by keeping the laws. That's what we're doing now in the school, in the truth. We're implementing the things that we said we couldn't do and doing them. And who laid the foundation of that? Christ. Because in old times, they used to say, oh, we couldn't do it, or we tried to cop out for it. You know what I mean? That's why the law of sacrificial is the law of sacrifice is no longer in effect, because we were like anybody trying to, if I go steal that, all I got to do is sacrifice 2 doves. Man, I'm gonna go buy 100 doves and I'm gonna come up. You know what I'm saying? But so that was the reason for it. If that answers your question. Go ahead,
We are our fathers too.
That is another thing too. Reincarnation is real. We get a second opportunity to right the wrongs that we made. You understand? And then on that question, I'm gonna get that in a second. Keep going.
Verse 17. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested day, and made it a day of feasting and gladness.
And so this is just going into us celebrating the victory over our enemy and rendering the judgment that they deserved on their back to them for what they wanted to do to us. Jump down to 26.
Verse 26. Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name of Pur.
The name of Pur, which means lots, if I'm not mistaken. You know what I mean? And that's what Purim is about. It was about the day where they wanted to kill us, and or the time frame where they wanted to destroy us, unalive us, and they casted lots on us. And so we celebrate the Lord. We celebrate this day in remembrance of the Lord turning that around in our favor. You understand? With that, I think we can drop down to 28, and I'm gonna go ahead and finish it from there.
Verse 28. And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation.
Throughout what?
Throughout every generation.
This is why we celebrate it. Keep going.
Every family, every province, and every city. and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed.
So this is why we do this and rehearse this, because the Lord said this is a story that has to be remembered. It was a story where a woman decided to do what we would think is impossible, put herself in a position where she didn't matter and consider her people. And we had a brother by the name of Mordecai that was in the midst of her, raised her to be that way. And him showing you that even through adversity, you still got to stand on business. You got to stand on these laws. You got to recognize that your integrity, this truth, this understanding that the Lord left for you, not everybody, but left for you, has to always be the number one thing in your life. And with that, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and break bread with brothers. You know what I mean? Get some drinks. Who's the guard on right now? Is it Yaraga Bar? I'm gonna pass the class on to priest and officer Yaraga Bar. And